Okay. And it looks like Elizabeth's on. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the TMA Council call this afternoon. We're going to get started here in just another minute and let folks get on the line. Thank you. Once again, if you're just joining us, welcome to today's TMA Council call. We're going to get started here in just another minute. Thank you. All right, Julie, you ready? We can go ahead and get started. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to ACT's TMA Council call this afternoon. Thank you all for joining us. Real quickly, just wanted to just go over a few housekeeping items. First, just want to let you know that you all are on mute. At the end of our presentations today, we are going to be opening this up for discussion. If you'd like to speak up, please raise your hand. It's a little icon next to your name, and we'll be sure to open up your mic so you can speak, or you can certainly type in the questions in the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. Also, if you have any questions or have any trouble hearing us, please feel free to type it in the chat box, and I'll be sure to get your questions answered as we get going here. Without further ado, I'd like to hand things over to Julia Wien, Chair of the TMA Council.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're gathering everyone in a time of uncertainty and definitely a challenging time for folks. So it's really important that we're all able to get together and learn from each other. So before we get too deep into this, I wanted to just take a second to welcome Elizabeth Denton, who's joining us now newly with ACT as the Membership Experience Coordinator. And Elizabeth, do you want to kick off and just give a quick introduction?
Sure, thanks. It's good to see you. I feel like it's almost been a year since we last saw each other.
I know.
Right? In the conference? Yeah. So I'm Elizabeth Denton, and I am the new Membership Experience Manager, as Julia said. I was just hired. Monday was my first day, but I have been involved with ACT as a member since 2012 in a variety of different roles. And I'm really excited about being in this role now officially because it means I get to work with everybody in the membership, and specifically I'll be working with chapters and councils and coordinating with all of you guys to assist you and help you with programming or reporting or recruitment or anything else that you want to do. So right now I'm just I've been calling it my listening tour, to go around and talk to everybody and hear what you're doing and figuring out just sort of where you are now. And then I will do some more in-depth conversations shortly thereafter. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Elizabeth. We're really excited to have you on board and excited to have some dedicated support to the council too. I think it'll be really great for all of us. And I'm also going to just turn over quickly to Olivia Holden, who's the co-chair, just to introduce herself. She's been really helpful in getting this all put together.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming today. I really appreciate everyone's time and energy and dedication to the topics that we're here to talk about today. And I'm really excited to learn from you all too. So feel free to contribute and collaborate as much as possible. And I'm just glad to see everyone's face and on a Zoom call and getting some personal interaction here today too. So good to see everyone. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Olivia. All right, so we can just dive right into the agenda. We have two great speakers today. We have Pooja Thomas Patel from the Go Samo TMO and Mary Morris Marty from Move Minneapolis. And we're hoping to end on sort of a group discussion. We know there are lots of questions out there. Again, I mentioned it's kind of a time of uncertainty, so folks are really looking to learn from each other, and we're hoping that our two panelists will provide you some really great snapshots of what they're doing in this time, and then we'll be able to talk a little more about what other folks across the council are doing as well. So we don't have all the answers today, but we're really hoping that this will be a valuable time for everyone to learn from each other. And we will follow up at the end. You know, we only have a short time to do all of our group discussion, but we'll follow up with some more resources for folks to remain involved in ACT and continue to learn from the TDM community and help kind of getting messaging and learn how folks are moving forward in the next few months. So I will turn right over to Pooja Thomas Patel. Pooja is a senior consultant with STEER, and she's the executive director of the Santa Monica Transportation Management Organization, the Go Samo TMO. She leads a small team that works with employers, commuters, and residents to reduce drive-alone trips across Santa Monica. Pooja brings expertise in TDM with a specific focus on utilizing public health techniques to encourage individuals to travel more sustainably. She has over 10 years experience in marketing, public relations, and transportation on both the consultant and federal policy side. She enjoys trying public transit in new cities and was thrilled by her recent experience on a public bus in Kuala Lumpur. And I'll turn it right over to you, Pooja.
Thank you, Julia. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to the discussion at the end as well to learn from you all. But let me just start by telling you about us. So I'm just going to set the stage. So this is Santa Monica. We are a tiny 8.4 square mile city just west of Los Angeles. We have 90,000 residents and 60,000 commuters. And we have a TDM ordinance that applies to all businesses with 10 or more employees. They are required to submit an annual TDM plan, and businesses with 30 or more employees are required to survey their employees annually and strive to reach certain trip reduction targets based on their proximity to transit. And we are fully funded by the city of Santa Monica. Okay, so what do we normally do? We're a small team, as Julia mentioned. We're managed by STEER, and we are technically one staff person with an intern. And our mission is to reduce drive-alone trips in Santa Monica by increasing trips by bus, train, carpool, vanpool, bike, and walk. We do a lot of events. We host lunch and learns for ETCs. We do a lot of ETC education. We do webinars. In fact, weirdly enough, in January and February, so all of 2020, we've only had webinars. We hadn't hosted any lunch and learns. We had planned to do an ETC mixer in March, but had to quickly turn that into a webinar as well. But our January and February webinars were parking cash out and pre-tax. So I guess we will continue our webinar streak for the time being. We also do a lot of events. We do Bike to Work Day. We help employers organize Bike to Work Day and host pit stops. We do ride-alongs, which are our most popular events, where we take groups of individuals on Big Blue bus rides for ice cream. We also do the same kind of rides on bikes or trains, but I think the Big Blue bus ones are most popular. We do pilots. We did a Waze carpool pilot last year. We were about to launch a Miles app pilot to incentivize people to try transit, but that's on hold. We have an employer recognition program that we host jointly with the city, where we recognize businesses who are doing a great job increasing sustainable trips at their business. It's the Go Samo Achievement Awards, and it's a points-based system where you get points for participating with the TMO, for increasing your sustainable trips every year, and by selecting certain strategies that will work towards reducing drive-alone trips at your business. And then lastly, we do a little bit of work with the residents as well. We do events, and we have a new resident packet that we distribute to residents as they're moving into Santa Monica to encourage them to take sustainable trips. And the situation in Los Angeles. So transportation makes up the largest portion of our emissions in the city. 64% of our emissions are through transportation, and 41% of California's emissions are from transportation. And before coronavirus, we were the smoggiest, one of the smoggiest metros in the US, and experienced some of the worst traffic in the country. Post-coronavirus, our stay-at-home order has meant cleaner air for us. We've had the longest stretch of clean air since the 1980s. And our cars are now moving 63% faster. So I guess there are some positives to this pandemic. Next slide, please. So how have we adapted to this situation? We're doing a lot of increased communications across the board. We've been focusing on information sharing, providing education and resources to our ETCs, checking in with them, maintaining our routines as much as possible, planning for return to work, and focusing on teleworking. Next slide, please. So how do we do the information sharing? We've been amplifying the messaging from our transit agencies and our shared mobility providers, making sure that our employers know what's happening, the fact that both agencies are offering free rides and rear door boarding. Our bike share system is offering free rides. We're amplifying messaging from the city and the chamber. We're sharing all of the employer resources with them. We're also doing a little bit of work with parking now, which is a huge shift for us. We have a lot of small employers in the city who are still open, and we need to find a way to get their employees to work safely. And under the circumstances, this involves parking. In the past, we've always encouraged individuals and businesses to focus on sustainable means. We've helped them figure out how to take advantage of our transit connections or carpooling or van pooling. But unfortunately, it looks like we're going to be at the front lines of providing folks with parking assistance for the time being as well. So that is a major shift for us. We've also increased our newsletter frequency. We've seen a huge increase in our open rates. We used to send out newsletters once a month. We're now sending them out basically weekly. And we've had a 10 percentage point increase in our average open rates. They're now at 32%. Before they were averaging at 22. And so this is really showing us that ETCs are looking for this additional information. We've just had a pause from the city on sending out our newsletters because they're trying to coordinate messaging. So we're hoping we can get back to sending out our weekly newsletters. So we shall see. And then we've also had increased social media. We have a LinkedIn group for ETCs and also have a Twitter. We are limited in our social media by the city communications department, so that these are the only two avenues we have. Next slide. So we're also working on providing education and resources for our community and the ETCs. So we created a COVID-19 and telework resources page on our website. We're working on a biking resources page. We created a working with kids resources page, which really just started as a personal thing that I started to entertain my child when I was trying to work. But it's been crowdsourced and others have added resources to it, and it's up on our website. So if you're a parent, please access it if you find it useful, and please add things to it as well if you have other resources you'd like to share. We have converted our regular ETC certification trainings into a virtual training session now, and are hoping to deploy that soon. We are hosting webinars, as I mentioned earlier. We hosted a telework webinar earlier this month. That's also available online if anyone would like to access it. And we're about to launch virtual office hours to provide additional support to ETCs as well. Okay, we've also been checking in with ETCs, just dropping a quick email to see how they're doing, to share the resources that we've put together with them. And unfortunately, we're finding that some of our ETCs are no longer with the business. And so these check-ins have also turned into our way of monitoring ETCs and just kind of monitoring turnover, trying to find the new ETC and making sure they're trained as well. We've also used these check-ins to assist with transportation plan submissions and requesting extensions for our ETCs for the employer plans. And we're informally tracking the situation and looking at doing a formal survey as well. Next slide, please. And then we are working, doing our best to maintain our routines as normal. So as long as we've been in existence since 2016, we've celebrated Earth Day every year. And it's usually our busiest event day. And so we're launching our virtual office hours this year on Earth Day, calling it our Earth Day coffee hour, just to give ETCs that sense of normalcy. And we'll have 2 sustainability experts on the call to help answer general sustainability questions as well. We're continuing with our GoSAMO Achievement Awards program, re-examining our points list to see how we can offer different opportunities to ETCs for earning points so that they can still continue to earn the awards that they had hoped to, continuing to host our bi-monthly events and continuing to host our regular advisory team meetings. We're also working on a return to work plan. So we're working with our partners. We have several members on our advisory team who are also working on their own plans. So the Chamber of Commerce, the Santa Monica Travel and Tourism Board, our bids, our employers are all planning their own strategies, and we're hoping to kind of be the one place where we can coordinate all of these different efforts. We've started a scenario planning spreadsheet to kind of look at all of the different scenarios for what it's going to look like when we return to work. We're talking to employers about implementing long-term telework policies. And then we're also working with the city and local advocacy groups to see how we can help increase biking in the long and short terms as well. Okay. So that's our general overview about how we've adapted in Santa Monica. And we've also done a major focus on teleworking. I'm sure most of you have as well. And so some of this may be a little redundant, but I just wanted to also do a quick overview on the advice that we're giving to employers in case that's helpful to any of the other folks on this call. And I'll go over this part really quickly. So we've had to, if you're being asked to help implement telework policies in an emergency, here are some of our tips. So starting with technology, it's important to keep people working. So focus on the technology and the communication tools. Set expectations. This requires a change in management style, so on focusing on what's getting done. I've heard some horror stories about people requiring folks to have webcams on for the full 8 hours. So advice against that. And be flexible. Like, we're going through a difficult times, and really important for businesses to be sensitive to that and sensitive to their employees' needs. And so it's good for us as TMOs to be advocating for that across the board. Training is really key. Don't assume that employers or employees know how to use any of the tools or know enough about the policies that you've put in place. And this is something TMOs can perhaps help with as well, is to help train their community so that teleworking goes as well as it possibly can. Some topics for possible telework training could include formal telework policy, communication structures and tools, technology, strategies for working effectively at home, etc. You can also provide some telework support, which is important for employees to kind of have that structure in place. So support on a good workspace, productivity and communications tools. Here's a photo of my colleague Nathan's telework work from home space. And it could be fun to share photos of people and their different workspaces. If I didn't have this background on, I'm actually working in my son's room, so there's child decor in my office. And then company and culture and emotional support are some of the things to also think about. It might be a good idea to ask employees to turn on their cameras while they're working, but this is while they're in meetings, not while working. But this is optional. Not everyone has the ability to do that. Maintain and amplify team rituals. I was talking about how we're trying to do that with the TMO earlier, and it's good for businesses and communities to do that as well. Help out help people keep their connections by hosting get-togethers and social hours, and try to have small talk during meetings as well by starting early or dedicating 5 minutes to chatting with folks, because we don't have the ability to connect with people in person anymore. And then announcing birthdays and milestones are also a good idea. I'm reusing this photo of my son in the background again, because I just think it just is a great description of my life working from home. He pushed his easel to behind my computer and climbed up so he could see what was going on. And you know, a lot of parents have this, and so it would be really good to provide teleworking support to parents, offering flexible schedules, normalizing kid sounds. In my case, there's a lot of dinosaur sounds happening in the background. And you know, it's okay. We just have to normalize it and have to make sure that everyone else understands that it's normal. Creating a resource group for parents could be a good idea as well. And just more or less, just it's really important to acknowledge the challenge that parents are facing having their children at home while also trying to work full time. And most days, that's really all I personally want, is just for someone to go, oh my gosh, I get it. And even if there is no actual support, really just that understanding is all I think that's really needed. Communication and trust. I'll go over the slide quickly. I think I'm running out of time, but it's important to over communicate and trust the integrity of your employees, manage by objectives, and again, be flexible. Next slide, please. Thinking about productivity tools is really important too. This might be something that TMOs can help with, because we have found that employers are struggling with finding the best tools for their businesses. And we've started by putting together a matrix on the pros and cons of the different options available, because there are so many. And so this could be something that TMOs can help their members with as well. But there are multiple different options for video and phone conferencing, shared project management. We use Asana, so I'm personally a fan. Shared document management, chat tools, social interaction tools. There's just so many tools out there, and a good idea to kind of go through some of them and make recommendations on which will work for what type of business. And then this is not my expertise, but talking about telework technology and security, and making sure that employers are aware of the fact that they need to be thinking about security is important as well. And lastly, creating a formal long-term telework policy that will extend beyond our stay-at-home orders once we're back to work, and hoping that more and more employers have those longer-term extended telework policies that reduce the number of people who are coming into work on a regular basis. And so we're encouraging businesses to think about that as well. So next slide. We have some new updates from the city. This week, we found out that the city is experiencing a huge budget shortfall, and that we might have some cuts. We don't know what's going to happen, but there is a chance that our program could be affected. And I'm not saying this because I want to alarm anyone, but I wanted to be honest and realistic, because this is an actual response to coronavirus that's happened. This is a coronavirus related situation that's actually happening here in Santa Monica, and hoping that it's not widespread. But this is something that we are now dealing with this week. And so how are we responding? Next slide, please. And we are basically making an increased effort to increase visibility, to show our value to the community. We're emphasizing the unique role that we play in the community and all of the relationships that we've built, which has taken us many years to do. And we are figuring out how we can work on the return to work plan while continuing to provide support to employers during this time. So we're just redoubling our efforts on that. Next slide. So yeah, that's the end of my presentation. So those are all the things that we've done in Santa Monica to address the situation. And I'd love to hear more from you guys on what you are doing, but I think I'll wait till Mary's presentation is done. But yeah, and feel free to reach out if you have questions.
That was great. Thank you, Pooja. I really like your, I'm going to check out your resource page on working with kids because I certainly need that as well. So thank you.
Yeah, I think, Pooja, there were a few requests for some of the resources you mentioned. So maybe we can all circle up after the call and send out a couple links to folks who are interested.
Yeah, even if you want to put them in the chat now, we'll have the recording up and everything that's in the chat will be live as well so you can see it.
I'll put
Oh,
it in now.
perfect.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. All right, so we will have time for kind of some more question and answer in our discussion period, but let's move on to our next speaker, Mary Morse-Marty, who is the Executive Director of Move Minneapolis, the downtown transportation management organization. She leads a team of transit, bicycle, pedestrian, telework, and mode sharing enthusiasts who encourage downtown employers to promote sustainable, equitable commuting among their workforces. Mary is the founder of Our Car Sharing, and is the co-chair of the Twin Cities Shared Mobility Collaborative. And I think we're just getting slides up here. Awesome.
You got it, Mary?
We'll see.
Casey's doing a great job changing the slides for us. We appreciate
All
it.
right.
I think Mary's is working.
Hey, I think we're go. What
You're
do you
good. You're
We're-
good.
I'm so happy. You're such pros. Thank you. So I loved everything Pooja had to say, and we did talk a little bit earlier about what parts of this we would take, because what Pooja is doing is so incredibly strong in the telework area. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the messaging end to give us a good variety of things today. But boy, I am so impressed by what's happening in California, and we're going to take a lot of that and apply it in Minneapolis immediately. I can actually promise you that my staff is having a private chat going, wow, that's amazing, that's incredible. So well done, Pooja. Move Minneapolis, we're a nonprofit transportation management organization.
Mary, I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you mind just changing your screen? We're seeing your side, like the preview side, not the actual presentation of what you're reading.
Okie dokie.
Yep.
How's that?
Perfect.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thanks for saying so. So we're focused on downtown Minneapolis, but we have an influence throughout the Minneapolis-St. Paul suburban region. We offer resources, workshops, and consulting, just like all of you do, but we're focused on downtown, and our hope is to reduce drive-alone commuting and really help companies optimize their commuter benefits programs. So we get really deep with employers and their workforces. In normal times, this is our menu. We're doing a lot of work, a lot of collaboration with our transit system, helping develop really good policies. People have been very receptive to this, and we've really taken off with our work pretty much in the last year. We had a period of time where we were not doing as much, and now we're very busy again. We get out and about, and we deliver behavior change programs that encourage downtown commuters to leave their cars at home. On the right side of the screen, you see our Springtime Transportation Summit. That is now going to be a virtual summit. On the left, you see our regional rail system. So we're organizing small and large indoor and outdoor events with as many people as we can muster. You can hear in that statement all kinds of challenges now, and it's the same for all of you. So here are the tools we rely on. We're promoting a very, very deep network of modes to help people get out of their cars. And we don't work alone. We have all of these partners. It's a pretty broad ecosystem of transportation invested organizations and businesses. There's more than these, and each one of them is dealing with COVID-19 in their own way, and each of them are facing in many cases, more uncertainty than our organization is. So today we're talking about messaging, and messaging is really Move Minneapolis's thing. Because we know that peer pressure is such a huge lever on commuter mode choice. That's why we focus on it. People respond to these aspirational, inspirational messages and images. And what you see here is the Move Like a Boss campaign, which is a downtown-wide visual effort we designed to make shared modes appealing. We launched Move Like a Boss in 2018, and we're going to keep building the campaign. We integrate it into everything. It's on our social media, it's in our materials, it's going to be in our new employer handbook, it's on our website. We have a downtown Minneapolis billboard company that owns billboards in our Skyway network, and they've been putting up backlit images for us all over downtown. All we have to pay for is the image printing itself. And now I know many of you are asking, what is she talking about? What is a Skyway? This is a traditional Minneapolis Skyway. We've got 9.5 miles of these second-story connected public pedestrian walkways, and you can get anywhere downtown. So you know our weather is a little different from California, so there are times when you maybe don't want to put your coat on, which in our case is a parka and snow boots and a hat and a scarf and mittens, just to run, 5 blocks. So you can run down the Skyways. We have a love-hate relationship with them, but I'm going to say they're great for getting out to the downtown Minneapolis commuter, especially car commuters. Sometimes they never go outside at all, so we can really find them in the Skyways. So a few more Move Like a Boss images. You see that car-free travel is stylish, and it's really fun, and it's something that's attractive and fit people do. And it's definitely not just for white people. Even former mayors love transit in Minneapolis. All of these images have either very recognizable characters in them or archetypes of people we want to make more credible and support as they make a lifestyle that is not about driving. So the other thing we do messaging wise is we really very blatantly promote freedom from cars. Every year we do a car-free MSP event, and that involves about 2.5 months of talking with companies, getting them to take part in our activities, and then meeting. We've not really hit a home run yet with our event, but we've done a kickoff, not a kickoff, but a big culmination event where all the companies who take part tell us how many of their staff did not drive that day, and then we run around town with trophies. It's a pretty great event. So that was our messaging prior to about March 13th. And at that point, we had a very, very precipitous closing to our office. Our staff headed home with our computers. Some of us had to go back on special days and pick up our things. It was that precipitous. If we were going to continue operations, and more importantly, if we were going to continue to provide something valuable to our customers, we had to offer something entirely new. So what have we done? We've done virtual office hours. Becky Alper and her crew put together this fantastic meeting where our companies were able to get together and talk with someone from Metro Transit about the Metro Pass, which is our unlimited transit pass that's sold. It's like Orca or any of the other transit passes. We have an ambassadors program that's new. Ambassadors is going at this point entirely virtual. It's really unfortunate, but of all the transportation consulting strategies we had, telework was our least developed. And that's particularly painful because a couple of years ago, we developed and submitted a proposal working with the University of Minnesota to improve and disseminate the work they'd been doing on telework, and the proposal was denied. So Move Minneapolis regrets that. We really came into this situation with not a lot of telework resources. Our team was not proficient, and our materials were not proficient. So we learned really fast, and I think many of you might be in the same situation. We vastly changed our website. We threw out our homepage, and what you're seeing here is the temporary homepage that we put up. And then we had to develop a whole suite of remote work resources. This is as one would scroll down the homepage, they had all these button options. And although we realized that a lot of employers were already ahead of the curve with telework, a lot of companies knew even less than we did. So we really started with the basics, and we found some of the best information was being crowdsourced by some guy on Reddit. Have you had that experience? I mean, Becky found this. It's like, who is this man and why is he so great? But he was getting these frequently updated crowdsourced things. We also found remote work best practices for retail and hourly workers, which I had not seen before. And that I think was really useful. And as much as we were trying to help ourselves, we started putting together remote work, very simple, like if you've never even heard of this, what do you do? And we call this our quick start guide. And it is currently on our webpage, and we are probably in need of updating it because I think, and I hope you all agree, but in the last 4 weeks, we have experienced a rapid improvement in the number of ways that we telework and in the knowledge we have about best practices. I think it's changing and getting better. So I think when we're done with the webinar today, we'll go back and fix this, make it better. So for the second time in our history, we put on a webinar, and we brought Wendy Duran in, and she was kind enough to join us and speak to telework. It was a popular event, and it is available if anyone wants to download it and watch it. It is there on our website for you now. And our website is changing. This is the other piece that's fun. We're in the midst of a complete website redesign. So we're fixing our old website to deal with coronavirus, and we're working on our new website to deal with everything else. It has been quite a time. So after our initial work from home emergency, we had some time, and we were updating our message. So when you come to our homepage now, you see that Move Like a Boss, the hashtag has changed. And do you see how nice that worked? Now we're staying put like a boss. We add frequent updates from our transit and shared mobility partners as they are issued. We find, just like Pooja finds, that our traffic is way up and people are looking for resources. So I'm coming close to the end, but one of the reasons that I am so happy to take part in today's event is that message is everything right now. And what's the message you see out there in your own community? I mean, I'm seeing stories about transit being filthy and full of virus. People are supposed to stay home and stay away from each other at all costs, and that cars are safe and clean. You know, and we've noticed that COVID-19 has been more effective at producing mode switch than nearly any of us have been. You know, this virus has gone out there and within the span of a month, gotten more people out of their cars than any other effort or message or strategy we have tried. So what can we do now? How can we make it stick? I mean, once children are back at school and daycare, will parents want to work from home? I mean, I hear so much, you know, this is really difficult for people. Maybe we need to take a moment and like have a breather period where once schools open and some semblance of normalcy, we allow parents to work from home the way some of us have, which is without any disruptions. Will elected officials and public works departments tear out parking lanes? And are they going to install permanent protected bike lanes? Will transit survive? In the end, we don't control the situation. None of us pretend that we do. We don't, you know, until there's a readily available test or better treatment or we have an effective vaccine, we're stuck in this normal. And as much as we think we know we can make plans to reopen, it's still out of our hands. But we do control one thing, and we need to decide what we want to keep from before the pandemic and what we're happier without, right? There were things that we didn't even know we hated, and now that they're gone, we realize we hated them. We hated noisy cars. We hated air pollution. We hated the smelly streets that we had. We love going outside and not feeling like we're going to be run down by a car all the time, you know, at every intersection. So this is where messaging really comes in. What we decide to talk about now will shape what we're capable of doing and changing for the better, and what sticks for the long term. So consider these messages. You know, what are we going to put out there? We are the leaders in this, and what we talk about is what becomes normal and what becomes real. So I encourage everybody to come up with some of your own messages. Maybe we can share them through ACT. And I propose that once we've got them, that we go forward and we message boldly. And I thank you.
Thank you, Mary. That was wonderful.
Thanks, Mary. And I think we have about 20 minutes now, folks, to have a little bit of an open discussion. I know I have a slide, Casey, that just has a couple starter questions on there, but we wanted to open the floor to folks if you have other questions or comments, either specifically for Pooja and Mary or for the general group. And I don't know, Casey, if you can see when people raise hands.
Yeah, if someone wants, you know, ask a question, you can certainly ask it through the Q&A. I know Pooja, they've been asking a few questions. I don't know if you've seen in the Q&A box there for some of the resources that you mentioned, not only the one with the kids, but also the return to work scenarios, if you might be able to provide that link. I can start with some of the questions if no one wants to speak up on the line at the moment. This one is for you, Mary. Mary, can you explain in more detail about your community behavior change programs?
Yes, I would say Move Like a Boss is our biggest official behavior change program. It is intended to, it's a trickle-down program. We encourage leadership at companies to take part, and then we offer them options and resources. We will come in and start doing trip planning for individuals. We will connect them through transit fares and transportation fares. At that point, we can also do some of the deeper dive types of things, like looking at their program benefits. Overall, we like to throw a lot at companies if we can. And what we haven't done yet effectively is measure anything other than the work we've done within companies. We've seen some really good behavior change and some really nice mode switch numbers, but we are unsure of our downtown-wide effectiveness. So that's our next step.
Okay. Julie, do you want to address any of the questions you have on the screen, or do you want me to ask some of the questions that have been asked in the chat in the Q&A here?
Let's get to folks' individual questions, and then if we run out, we can get on to what's on the screen.
Okay. This next one, Mary, how has COVID-19 affected your messaging for Bike Month?
We have, well, it's a work in progress. I'm going to put it that way. We will be producing a bike maintenance webinar, and we're working with our friends in North Minneapolis. North Minneapolis is a fairly income impacted community, primarily African American, and we're doing our best to ensure that any work we're doing around bike commuting and bicycle transportation includes that community. We're talking with the others who are the most engaged in that. We have a couple of nonprofit organizations that take the lead on Bike Month and Bike to Work Day. We've generally followed their lead. And if our staff wants to pop on the chat and talk about their plans, I would welcome that.
Okay. While we wait to hear, in case any staff do, This next question for both you, Pooja and Mary. Do either of you have a bike matching program to provide donated bikes for low-income populations?
The TMO doesn't, but we have a local bike advocacy group in Santa Monica, Spoke Santa Monica, that does a lot of that work. So yes, there is an organization that has that locally.
Yeah. And in Minneapolis, we have multiple bike donation programs, and we have programs for income limited individuals through our bike share. We also have, I hope you don't hear, we have our 1 o'clock emergency sirens going on in the background. Adds a little something special to the presentation. Nice Ride, which is our bike share, has also just reopened in Minneapolis with an offer for free bike use to healthcare workers. So anyone who needs a ride or who needs a shared bike, who is going to a healthcare facility who works there, can use the bike.
And similarly in Santa Monica, our local bike share is free rides for 90 days for anyone in the city.
Okay. And Becky Alpert just wrote in and said that Mary is correct that other organizations take the lead with Bike Month Day, and they assist in messaging and staff support. She said we are supporting messaging for hashtag 30 Days of Biking this April. So, thank you.
Can I ask a really quick follow-up to that? Sorry.
Yeah.
Is your Bike to Work Day going on as usual, Mary? Ours has been postponed to September. Okay.
No, not as far as I know.
Okay.
We had talked about doing a bike to your work day, where instead of actually biking to work and going to work, we would encourage people to get out on their bikes and discover their routes if they had not biked before, to see what's available to them and maybe shoot a picture of themselves in front of their building. But even that struck us as, you know, maybe playing fast and loose with the shelter at home rules.
Yeah.
I know there are, while we're on this topic, though, I think a few folks who are trying to do some kind of electronic, virtual bike weekday month activity. So maybe if anyone on the call does want to write into the chat or raise their hand and talk about that, just looks like there's some interest in that in the group. So I just want to bring that to the forefront.
We just did a webinar yesterday for Bike to Work Month programs, and I have someone raising their hand. So if you weren't able to join us for the webinar yesterday, I would definitely check out the recording to see. Let me get the person here. Bear with me. And it's Thomas who was actually on our webinar yesterday. So Thomas, you're unmuted now. You can go ahead and talk.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, this Bike Month, we're running a virtual program that's open to anyone everywhere across the whole country. We're encouraging individuals to set a goal that obviously they can choose their goals. If they're new to riding, they can choose to ride 10 miles or 10 times in the month. And if you're an existing rider, you can obviously set a higher goal. And the cool thing is we're allowing companies to set goals too. So it's a nice, fun team building activity to build some community and for people to support and encourage each other to meet this company-wide goal. So that's on lovetoride.net/USA.
Thank you, Thomas. And Thomas had a great presentation yesterday again. So if you did miss our webinar, please check it out. The recording is live on the ACT website right now. Thank you, Thomas. We've got a few more questions here. Let me see here. Mary, per Pooja's comment about her city funding, have any of your funding sources at risk? And how does your business model help promote versatility and sustainability?
That's a great question. We are primarily funded through a CMAQ grant. We receive $330,000 each year that is passed down through our transit authority, through our MPO. And then we, of course, need to match that at 20%. So we have developed some more flexible funding sources, and we have been lucky that there are other partners who are working on projects, and they are relying on us to connect them to the downtown business community. So those those form smaller contracts that allow us to remain stable right now. I don't know what the future will look like. I am not sure what the future of the CMAQ program is. And it seems that we would be well served to develop more connections with our business community. At the same time, because we're able to offer all of our services at no cost, we are able to, I think, lure a greater number of potential clients. So it is, I feel safe right now. I feel very, very secure through the year, and I'm not sure what 2021 will bring.
Okay. Last question that I have, and then I think we can get into some of your discussion points there, Julia. Mary, this one for you as well. How effective is the car-free MSP program? What are the expectations of the companies involved and the financial implications?
Oh, that's so good. The companies that take part are expected to promote non-driving commuting to everybody. And it's just for one day. It's for this September 21, or sometimes it's September 22. We always try to keep it. There's an International World Car Free Day that happens on September 21st every year, and we move ours to make sure it falls on the work week. That's why we renamed it to Car Free MSP. We ask them to get as many people as possible out of their cars, and this is a bald-faced ask, and we expect them to take part in that. Again, we're bringing our services to them for free, whether that's the transportation fare or going and helping them match up a bunch of new carpoolers. We don't expect much from them in terms of money, because the best thing they can do, besides having one of their staff people being the ringleader, is to have donuts on September 21st. So we've got great pictures of companies who are bringing, putting out the spread on this day when people are biking to work for the very first time or trying transit. We try to make it a celebration. So you know how cheap it is to put on a celebration with coffee and donuts, but everybody loves that. And we've had more than, we're 50 some companies took part last year, and it's getting bigger as we do more of it. It becomes, again, that peer pressure thing. We talk about who did it before. We show some pictures of last year's winners. We've had one company come back every year we've done this, and they win every year. They're so hardcore, and it's pretty great.
Casey, I don't know if we can hear you. I see you talking.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Mary, I think the other, Olivia just mentioned that if you could share your best practices for hourly workers in the Reddit channel too, for folks to maybe get that information, that would be very helpful.
We'll get on that.
Thank you.
That Reddit guy is going to be famous.
He is. Julia, go ahead, pass it over to you if you'd like to.
Sure. It looks like we did have a couple more questions come in on here, so I can keep going through them. And I think maybe what I'll preface some of this with, because this will probably take us through the end of the time. I have a slide in a second to talk about kind of some ongoing conversations, but let's try to get through what we can right now, and then hopefully we can continue the conversation in the coming weeks. So we have one that says, how close are folks to the science health-based conversations related to what will become the best practices, mandates around workplace distancing and distancing on transit whenever things gradually reopen? Are agencies essentially waiting for word from state, county, city health, or conversations directly with transit other entities who will author those best practices or mandates? So I'm not sure if this is directly for Pooja and Mary, but if either of you want to throw an answer in, we can start with that. Otherwise, we can definitely throw this out to the whole group. So if folks want to raise their hand and jump in, I think that's a really good question and something that we all need to be thinking about. Obviously mandates that are forthcoming are going to really dictate how all of this looks. But if anyone, has insights or has had conversations with transit agencies more recently to share with the group what you've been hearing, I think that would be really great and helpful.
Yes, feel free to raise your hand. I can open up the mic for you.
All right. Well, maybe something we can kind of keep in mind. I think that's something we're all really waiting to hear and see how things progress. But definitely something that's important to us as TMAs. Another question we have here is, anyone working or were they working before COVID to increase private employer investments in TMA and collaborative mobility services? And I think, Glenn, we have two panelists today who don't necessarily get private employer investments pre-COVID, but plenty of folks on the line that do. So again, if folks on the line want to raise their hand and jump into that conversation, that would be much appreciated. But I think, Pooja and Mary, if you have thoughts about how that might change for you moving forward, that might be an interesting thing to talk about too.
We do have a little bit of private investment because we do some fee for service for employers. And surprisingly enough, we just are about to extend 2 of our fee for service contracts. But they're a very, very small percentage of our budget. And I don't think it's significant enough to say that we have any decent amount of private investment in the TMA at this point.
We have nothing planned of note.
Okay. Does anyone on the line want to jump in? I know there are plenty of TMAs that do, get the bulk of their funding from private employer membership or a large portion of it. And it would be interesting to hear from folks how we envision that changing, if there are struggles that we're seeing with individual employers who are facing their own budget problems. Oh, it looks like somebody.
Yep, we got here Lisa K. Let me get you there. There you go, Lisa K. Your mic is open. Just have to unmute yourself.
All right, can you hear me now, Casey?
I can hear you.
Great. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Movability in Central Texas, we don't receive CMAQ funding because our air isn't bad enough yet. And so we have, compared to most, a reasonably diversified funding stream. So we are membership based, where all of our members pay dues on an annual basis. It's a rolling annual basis. But what we are doing right now is we are quickly pivoting to make, this is not what it's going to be called, but internally we're calling it a micromobility category. So we had small, medium, and large corporation categories. And originally that small category was from 1 to 199 employees. And we're cutting that in half so we can get even smaller employers to be able to get our services, to receive our services and to participate in what we do. So that's one proactive thing that we're doing so that we can address those who are most in need right now.
Excellent.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. And one more question down here. I think this is the last one for Pooja. Please explain in more detail how you manage the ride-along events and the rideshare fares.
Yes, the ride-along events. They are some of the most fun things that we do. So we usually work with the transit agency to plan these events, and we keep the groups small enough to fit on the size of the bus that's running on the route. And we keep the rides no more than 15 minutes long. So usually what we'll do is we'll have people meet at a meeting room and we'll do a quick background on the bus that we're about to ride, and we'll do a quick explainer on how to ride buses. We find that most of our constituents are pretty comfortable going on trains or biking, but haven't been on a bus in years, if not since they were children. And so there's just this general discomfort. So we just do like a quick 5-minute intro to how to ride a bus, and then we hand out tap cards to everyone that are loaded with $5.25, which will get them about 4 trips on a big blue bus. And we head to the bus stop. We usually try to make sure that our meeting space is no more than a 5-minute walk to the actual bus stop. And then we will head to the bus stop. We track the bus on transit app to make sure that the timings are correct and we're not waiting super long. And then we will board the bus, head to our event. We will let the ice cream place or pie place know beforehand that we are coming. They're usually happy to provide us with a small discount because we bring a large group, usually 20 to 30 people, depending on the bus. And then we hang out there for about 20 minutes, half an hour, and we take the bus back. We also show people how to load a bike on the bus if anyone wants to do that and they bring their bike. Yeah, they're usually pretty simple. We just try to coordinate with the bus provider, and we track the trip on transit app, so make sure we're doing things in a timely manner.
Great, thanks Pooja, and I know we're hitting on 12 o'clock here, so we can wrap up, but lots of great questions today, and I think there's still lots to talk about, lots of questions that maybe aren't necessarily related to COVID-19, but people are interested in kind of sharing and learning about programs among TMAs, so I think great things for us to be thinking about as folks do come back to work, make sure that we're really addressing whatever challenges are coming our way. So I wanted to just open up a couple lines of communication moving forward. ACT has been holding Friday open web discussion, so just getting a bunch of folks on video chat and having some open discussions. So Casey and the team that has been working on these is thinking that it might be nice to do kind of a TMA focused chat. So if folks have ideas or thoughts that they may want to bring to the discussion, you can send them my way or send them to Casey, and keep an eye out for that in the next few weeks. And otherwise, I think every Friday, Casey, there's a discussion.
Every Friday, we have one tomorrow. Check it out. You can register online. We're going to be talking about van pooling, carpooling, changing behavior as we move forward and we go back to work. So please definitely join us.
Great. And then just other upcoming ACT events. We have the Emerging Mobility Virtual Summit, which is coming up in a few weeks, so you can register for that. And then I'm sure you've seen the emails, but ACT has been putting out some really great webinars pretty frequently, so keep an eye out for them. We can continue to learn from each other, and Olivia and I can continue to be here as resources for folks. So if you have questions and you just need to connect to other people within the council, we're happy to field those questions and try to make sure we're getting you in front of the right people.
And we'll have the recording up for you, Julia, so we can get it up on the TMA site so you guys can see it whenever you need it.
Excellent. All right, I think that's everything then. I think the last slide just has our contact information on it, Casey, if you want to throw it up. I don't think any of us are hard to find, so if folks have questions, reach out to any of the four of us.
Excellent. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, team. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Mary and Pooja, for a great presentation today. Hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.